what exactly the Ajax is and how it works at the end of the day. Right. So for that, what I have taken is I have taken a very small MVC code application. Inside that, what I did is I have taken I have created one controller. That's a basic template that I have taken for this MVC code. And I have taken one this action controller, this action, this view index, and I'm returning this my view. So I have created one separate view for this action, and that the view name is my view. And other than this, there one more action I have defined in this controller, test Ajax or display time, and I have implemented this thread.flip for 10 seconds, that is 10,000 milliseconds, that is equal to 10 seconds, in which I am going to set that date time for today's date into a view data. View data is nothing. View data is when you want to pass the data from controller to the view, right? Yeah. And then you want to return this view to my view, right? And this is what my view is, and just focus upon this thing only, right? I have taken one considered form, and inside that I have defined the action name as display time, and that's what the action name is, display time. And method is post, in which I have taken two controls. This text box one, in which I am setting the value of that view data, current data. That current data is our date time for today. I'm just submitting the data, right? So when I run this application, it's basically taking some time. When I left this control file, it is open to run this console. When you click on this button, this display time, this display time is nothing. This display time is one of the action that I have defined. So when I click on this button, so this display time gets activated, and when you click onto that, you can clearly see that this is the request that you have sent to the browser, and this is the response. And in the response, it is clearly visible that it is returning the whole data, the whole HTML, right? So overall thing is that I have taken one form with the action name display time, and the method is post, and I have taken two controls, the normal HTML control, and I am setting the value of this current data into the view data, into the value of this text box, and this is the display time, action that I have defined in this Ajax, in this controller, and then I'm going to run this application. So it's basically returning the whole HTML at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So that's what exactly it is doing. It's returning the whole HTML, right? Yeah. So this is the thing that I want to avoid, right? I don't want to first of all, I don't want to have the full HTML written. Other than this, I don't want you have sent the request to the server. You are waiting till your request gets completed. That means you are waiting for this is something synchronous communication, right? Now what I want is, I don't want the full HTML first of all, and I want to make my call as an asynchronous call. Okay. Asynchronous call, like in the sense, it is in the background, it is going to do its own task, but in the front end, I can do my own task simultaneously, right? So for that thing, what I did is, I have taken one method, this display time Ajax, in which I am returning this datetime.now.system, and now I have changed my view a little bit. I have taken this Ajax form, and inside this Ajax form, I have taken, using Ajax.begin form, display. When you open this Ajax.begin form, it will come up with three parameters. First of all, the action name. So in this case, my action name is display time Ajax. Then your object is basically this is the. So in the first parameter, this is the controller name. So this is my test Ajax, and then your Ajax option. So this Ajax option is nothing. I have defined this Ajax option over here. These are the options. When you define these options, so it is going to. So these are the key values. On success, there's the JavaScript function to call after the page is successfully updated. On failure, if you want to define something on complete and on big. What is the difference between on complete and on success? On complete is something before your page gets updated, but on success is something when your page is successfully updated, right? So in generally we always take this on success method. I mean, at the end of the day, if something we get the successful data, what the you can say that the message you want to throw. So you basically use this on success. You can say the property of this Ajax option, right? So I have defined this my success method into this Ajax option. My success is the function that I have defined over here. What I'm doing is I'm just setting the value of the data, that's the written data. So when I'm going to run this application, so this is my Ajax form, and this is the display time.ajax. And if you go to the response, you can clearly see that it is only sending me the required data. So overall scenario is that in browser and in this controller, in the client and the controller, when you send the request and we got the response, if you're going to take the Ajax form, then it is going to send the actual data that you need, not the whole HTML. But if you are going to take the non-Ajax form, then it is going to send the full HTML. Way of implementing and the way of implementing is almost same in MVC for Razor as well, right? When we are going to, when we are going to architect our project, then we are going to use this Ajax begin form, right? And I'm going to use this Ajax.begin form in our architecture, not depending upon your requirement. We are going to create one scenario in which, let's suppose I'm going to add an employee or add a customer, but I don't want to post the full page, right? Or I'm going to take a custom dialog box. In the custom dialog box, I'm going to add an employee, and once that employee gets successfully added, I'm going to close that dialog box. Otherwise, it needs to get pop up with a message of failure that employee ID already exists or customer name already exists. Being consider that employee ID and customer name is a unique. That's the way I'm going to show you in the architecture of the project. So we are going to implement the same. But that is the kind of this is something with ASP engine, right? This is not with the Razor view, right? This is not with the Razor. Okay? Because I've taken this percentages and all that. This is something related to what? Razor. Sorry, ASP. If it is case of Razor, then we have to take this at the rate, right? Come to the next thing. Now, as of now, I have defined this, in the Ajax.begin form, right? My controls, right? Now, what happens if there is no form, right? So the way I tell you that, like suppose in this particular scenario, there is no such form has been defined, right? There is no form has been defined. I have taken this particular control into the div tag. Now, if this is the case, and you want to get, you can say that you want to implement, I can say that your Ajax in these cases where you haven't defined any form, you want to implement the Ajax. Then what is the process to do that? What is the steps to do that? In those cases, you need to define a jQuery function, right? You can do the same using the jQuery. On the submit of this button click, on click event of this submit button, I have called one function get data, and this get data function I have defined over here. I mean, don't forget to add the references of your JavaScript. I'm going to define this get data. In this get data, when the things are not defined into the URL, things are not defined into the form, not defined into the form, then you need to define the URL first. That URL is nothing, your controller / your action name. Then you need to take $.get or post, or whatever the method, the old web method, get, post, put, update, delete, all those things, right? Find this $.get, and in the first parameter, you need to pass on the URL. URL is nothing, that is, you are telling that you need to hit this particular action of this controller. And the second one is your data, the JavaScript data. So I'm going to set this text to value to this data, whatever the data has been written. Yeah. So I was telling what happens if there is no form present. So we can have the Ajax form or we don't have, right? So what happens in the case if we don't have the controls inside the Ajax form, right? Or inside any form, right? So then in that case, we are going to use the jQuery, right? So we are going to give the references of this jQuery, and then we need to define the function on the click of the event of the button. And inside that function, first of all, I need to define the URL. Basically contains your action name slash your controller name slash your action name. After that, you need to define $.get post put update or delete, whatever. I mean and inside that, in first parameter I have passed the URL, and in the second parameter I have passed the JavaScript object, the data that basically contains the results by your MVC application. And then I am setting this value to the this text2, and text2 is nothing, that's an ID. So this is hash text2.build data. So I'm just setting the value using the jQuery, Ajax with jQuery. Okay. What exactly this database first approach? Database first approach is nothing. So I'll what I done is I have taken one class. This is my class library, or then what I done is, like suppose this is the application, or you can consider this as your application MVC app, and I have taken one layer of that EDMX. So inside that, or you can say that this is your data library kind of. Add new item, data, and this is your EDMX, right? I've taken this EDMX. Now, there are two things. What should the model contain? Creates an entity model from a database, right? Yeah. So it is going to create the model of your database structure, or the tables that you are defining in your database. So that's what is, you can say that your database first approach. So I am going to consider first of all my database, then I am going to create the model. Other cases, empty model. In this scenario, what exactly happens is I am going to create the model first, and then I am going to create my database later. Generate from database. So we are going to take the generate from database. I am going to create first from my database. Then you need to define a new connection, and you can take the server name, whatever the server name that you have. Like I have taken dot in the sense, dot means local, right? Then you can take the corresponding, you can say that database name, and then you can paste the connection. This is the name of the connection string. If you want, you can change it. Next, and whatever things that you want to get populated from it, you can populate it. Okay. Then use flow procedures or link to the tables, anything you want. So I have created this XML model1.edmx. If you want, you can at the time of adding, you can rename it to whatever the EDMX that you want to create. You can give the name, but I have taken by default as the name provided by the wizard, and it will you can say that it will create the structure of your database into this particular UI. It is going to contain all the relationship between all the tables. It is going to contain all things that database generally have. The foreign key relationship, surrogate keys, everything it is going to contain, right? If you want, you can either add, you can open the same, right, and it will clearly show you the picture of the tables that you have with your database, the relationships, everything it is going to contain. It basically, at the end of the day, this is the model of your application. You can add the reference of this model to your client, that is this is my client, and if I'm going to look into this employee entities, I have created one more model in the class library, that is the model1.edmx. I have taken a very simple example of employee info. So I have generated this from the database, and this is the model of my employee entities. The connection string name is employee entities, and my database name was employee. Similarly, something similar to like Northwind. This is for Northwind, and this is for the employee, right? And other than this, by default, it is going to contain a connection string, app config that contains the app connection string that we have defined. In your main program, you can just create object of that particular entity. Employee entities is nothing, that is the connection. It is going to connect to the database at the end of the day. Then once you define the employee entities, then you will be able to get all the tables, all the flow procedures that you have defined, you will be able to fetch or you will be able to interact with them. So this is thing that it is at the end of the day, it is going to inherit from the DB context. So this DB context is nothing. Whenever you in .NET, whenever you interact using link queue to EDMX, it basically connects to the database using DB context. But if you are going to interact with link queue to SQL kind of thing, then it basically uses data context at the end of the day. I mean, the role of picture, if I am going to say that for both the things are same, data context and DB context, right? Data context when you are interacting with link queue to SQL, DB context when you link queue, and this is your database. It might be one of the data source because the link you can connect to any kind of data source. So it is going to interact with this particular data source using the data context. Right? Similarly, we are having DB context in EDMX. Got the point? Yeah. Now, once you get this thing, you can easily interact with the data or the tables present over there, and then at the end of the day, you need to provide your link to code. What exactly the database first of all? So you are considering the database has been created first of all, right? And then you are creating the model of that particular database. And then after creating the model, that means you have created the entities of your database. Once you have created that database, then you need to create the object of that particular context. In EDMX, that is DB context, you need to create an object, and then you can, so once you get that context, you can interact with all the entities that is present into that particular model. It's like, in the sense, you can interact with any kind of any table that is present into that particular table.